Better?
Still not showing though.
Just working on getting the camera organized. Having more trouble with it this morning than usual.
Put your hand in front of it. I just want to see if it's like actually live.
It says it's live.
Oh, yeah. No, you're still sideways. It's going to be a sideways day.
It's gonna be a sideways day, hey? Alright, well. Let's see what we can do about that. It's telling me to rotate the device again. Oh, YouTube. Why you gotta do the thing? How's that?
That's good.
Is it still broadcasting?
Yeah.
Because it's giving me the rotate device message as if it's the most desperate situation in the world.
No, you're good.
Okay, we'll go with that then.
Yeah.
Alright, so unfortunately, after many, many delays, we're finally organized. Sorry about that. Where are we? Well, we're in Edmonton, which is a different place from where I usually am. It is Thursday morning. I am awake, and Mirna is here physically with me for the first time that we've done this together, so that's really cool. There is coffee, which is amazing, and I am going to work on another part of the commission for Scrive. I was working on a map for Scrive last week. I can show you guys what that looks like because it's done now. And camera being confusing. Yeah, this is not going to work as well as I wanted to. But anyway, this is the map of Renda. Everybody saw me kind of drawing that and inking that last week. So that's what it turned out looking like. This week we're going to be designing and then hopefully sketching out a Druid Study that is part of her campaign that she's running. Drawing? No, writing. That's the word I want. It's been a long night. So we have a commission brief for it, and what we're doing is an interior. So what I want to do right now is create a thumbnail for that. So I'm going to be working on that. Mirna is going to be asking me questions, sorts, right? Or
They're
a
all
first
super
date.
nice, I promise.
Oh, she says they're all super nice. Yay! I like nice people. They make the world go around. So yeah. I guess give me one and let's get going.
Okay. See? Oh. See, now I'm writing the struggle less.
I like that phrase.
Gary wanted to know, do you ever find intentionality going in with a plan for the project in conflict with the discovery of the process as you go?
As I go. That really depends on what kind of project I'm working on. Intentionality is often a much, much bigger deal when I'm working on pieces for other people. Because usually for other people, if it's not gift art, they have a plan for what they want in a commission sense. And I need to be doing the best I can to bring that into reality, right? So if I suddenly get hit in the middle by something that is really inspiring, or a new technique, which happens way more frequently than I'd like to admit, I kind of have to make a decision mid-stride about continuing in that vein and just playing with it and letting the piece encompass the experimentation, which is wonderful because it's really fresh, but it's also very fraught with risk because, you know, you've never done it before. Or kind of going with the known and true side of things, which you know will get you where you need to go, but it may not be as vibrant or just exciting in that moment. When I'm working for myself, I'm almost always in an exploratory phase. It just is a way that I like to work, kind of put it down and see where things start to take me. So it's been productive for me to kind of see how I'm feeling about where I'm at. And if something kind of grabs my attention, I just run with it. Creating art for myself is one of those things that it's about the play. It's about the process, I guess, as much as it is about the outcome. And that is important. It took me a really long time to get comfortable with the idea that it was about the process and not the outcome. For a long time, I held very strongly that you had to have a sketchbook full of finished pieces that were amazing, that if someone wanted to go through your sketchbook, they were blown away. And that was the only way that you could really be considered an artist. And I had to let that go, if that makes any sense. I guess had to is a strong phrase, but I found that once I finally was able to, I created better art. I was way less hung up on the stuff that didn't work. I was way more satisfied with the stuff that did, and I was a lot more adventurous overall. And I think that the adventure was important. There's there's wonderful things that come out of being safe and knowing what you're doing all the time, but I don't find it very creative for me anyway. So yeah, it's kind of a mix of both depending on who I'm creating for overall, if that makes any sense. I hope that answers your question, Gary. If it doesn't, feel free to clarify and I'll try to have another run at it. Need squash leaves coming in from outside. Get a couple of those going over here. Something tendrily. Sometimes squash tendrils are the coolest. Maybe a squash blossom up here. So we need a bookcase. We'll do that on the wall. I think I'm gonna have to change the design for that chair. Make it look a little more robust. I think I want a bird skull in here. This is a druid. I feel like they might have a bird skull. So this is just a loose sketch. I'm gonna go through and refine that again later. So right now I'm just thinking through the ideas and what I want to have in here.
Can I ask questions?
Of course you can. I'm all
Are
for
you
that.
drawing like a static scene that's accompanying the map, or is it
Yeah.
something that's going to be playable, or
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Don't worry, I'll learn you. This is a static scene, so the everything my understanding is what's going into this module is static images that are meant to give the children who are playing it some idea as to the setting and as to the characters, stuff like that. So the goal for this is they're going to encounter this druid at some point who's going to help them understand the mystery of what's going on in the luminous lake. And they need to come and find him. I think it's a him. Them, yeah. They need to come find them at the druid's cabin. So the goal is to have the druid's cabin kind of worked out so that they have an environment they can look at when the DM says, and this is where you are, to give them kind of that additional impression of wonder and immersion into the game. I think that's one of my favorite things about this project is that it's not just map work. Like, I really like drawing maps. They're a ton of fun, but there's also just so much illustration that you can do to bring out the mood and the setting of an RPG world. A really good example of this is all of the work that Brahm did for Dark Sun. I want to say in like the 70s or the 80s, but Brahm, if you've never seen him, his work is incredible. The spelling is Brom. And he does a lot of like, I don't know how to describe it other than like very heavy metal, black and white, heavy ink kind of illustration, or he was doing at that point in time. And it's just absolutely amazing how his art for Dark Sun just makes you feel like you're there. And I think we can do more of that. And I think we should as artists. It's a really great way to kind of practice your conceptual art. And it's a really helpful tool for DMs who are wanting to create immersion for their players who maybe aren't necessarily the best at visualizing things. I have a couple of friends who have struggle hugely to visualize something if you describe it to them orally. So it's better to have an image at that point so
Yeah.
they can just have a look at it and go, oh, that's what you mean. Okay, perfect.
Well, and especially for kids, right, who might not even know.
Some of these words
Some of
even,
the words,
right?
yeah.
For sure. It's really important to me that we have accessibility in gaming. And that can be things as simple as making sure that you have a visual reference for people who maybe don't put visual references together very quickly. That can also mean, like, if you have a blind player, there are braille dice out there. There are
Awesome.
ways
I
of
mean,
doing things to
yeah.
make sure that everyone can enjoy the game. It might take a little bit more work for a DM and for a party, but if you want someone to have the best role playing experience, I don't think that's too much to ask to go far out of your way to help someone else enjoy the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Okay, I wanted to know what's like a creative supply that you're dying to play with. And you can't say here's some cheek tablet.
That's a creative supply I'm dreaming of. Like, that's gonna take me years to finally save up for, and I'm excited about it. I think right now the thing that I am the most preoccupied by in terms of wanting to play with it is gold leaf and metallic pigments. I'm seeing a lot of artists that I'm really into combining them with watercolor and with acrylic in some cases, but largely it's been watercolor and the effect in between those two that I really have been taken with lately. So I had gone earlier this week with Mirna to go and buy myself some stuff because I come from a town where there's no art supply store. And we went into the shop and I was super excited and got the stuff that I was looking for. And then we were like, let's check this other art supply shop while we're out and about. So we went. And like, I know the other place is more expensive, but I didn't really give it much credence at the time. I was just excited to go look and be around and do things.
Until we bought the same thing.
Yeah, so I bought stuff there at the second shop that Myrna had bought at the first shop and was like, wow, this seems really expensive, but I didn't think anything of it until we went into the car and started comparing receipts. And the second shop was more than twice as expensive for the exact same object. And so today, part of my errands will be taking that stuff back and going and buying it at the more affordable shop. And part of it is like, yeah, I could just let it ride, but I don't want art shops gouging people unnecessarily. And I wasn't buying, Myrna didn't buy her stuff from a discount shop. So, like, obviously there's a fair market price and then there's a marked up market price. And I feel like if I remove my vote in terms of taking my money away from that business, maybe it'll cause a corrective action. And if it won't, well, whatever, at least they don't have my money. Don't underestimate the power of a dollar when you're voting with it, people. And the flip of that is art supplies can be expensive. And especially when you're working on a commission basis, you don't have a job that's supplementing what you're doing. You need to be smart about how you're spending your money. And if I can get that and then still get half that again in other supplies that I need, then that's smart. Like, that's honestly, at risk of sounding like my ex-husband, just good business. So that's a thing that we're hopefully going to get to today. And then I will have the liquid frisket that I want for working with the watercolor. And I am hopefully going to be able to afford some gold leaf so that I can play with it this weekend while we're at the Shaw.
I meant to bring you, and I'll bring you to the Shaw,
Yeah.
my Fine Tech metallic watercolors.
I want to play with those. They
I
look
know.
amazing.
I meant to bring them today as soon as you started talking about this.
That's okay. The good news is I'm in the city for a change, so we can actually do stuff like this without a problem. I really wanted to draw this image initially with like a giant overchair instead of a bed, because I just had this image of this really plump recliner style chair with buttons deep in the back of it that was striped in this kind of gaudy orange and green. Like for some reason I just have this image of this druid having this lovely chair that they've hauled around forever, that's super comfortable and quite ratty. And I guess we'll just have to make sure this chair has that stripe pattern in honor of the vision that I was having. Alright, I'm not content with the way that this bed is lined up. I think the force perspective on it is off. So, we'll go again.
How much guidance did you get for the scene?
Not a lot. I can probably read it out. It's probably 3 or 4 lines. And that was enough to tell me, like, we're looking at an interior shot. We're looking at a place that's comfortably cluttered. But like what that clutter is kind of up to me.
Yeah.
So you know, like this is a druid, so the kind of clutter they're going to have is going to be reflective of what they do as a profession. So I'm choosing to believe this. Flip. Okay, apparently we were interrupted and now we're back. Today has just been the day of camera glitches. I've never had a morning quite like this. My goodness.
It's because we thought it would be easy.
It is because we thought it would be easy.
We always do.
Murphy's Law, right? I get to have Mirna in person and fails with the camera. So I guess I'll still take it. I mean, Mirna in person is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys can probably hear that there's a dog running around in the background. That's not my puppy. My puppy is at home with Dave. But it is Happy Chewy. He's pretty amazing. And he sounds like the entire troop of Riverdance when he's on the hardwood. And we're totally cool with that. So sorry, you were asking me about what?
I don't remember anymore. Let's ask Kim's question.
Okay.
How do you keep dog hair out of your...
Actually, this is going to sound really funny, but keeping your desk clean is really important. One of the biggest culprits I find on my desk is like eraser snow, right? And that can get into everything. And if you're working particularly with something like watercolor where you have a lot of fluid, any speck of dust that you get in there will cause that to concentrate around that point, which is going to throw off your shade gradient, the whole freaking 9 yards. Canned air, a bottle of canned air, super useful.
Have you tried the kneaded erasers? Because they're supposed to pick up and hold on to that stuff.
I haven't. My experiences with kneaded erasers is that they were terrible as erasers, so the point of having them around...
I have one that...
You have a good one?
I have a good one.
Okay, because I'd be curious to try one that's actually useful.
Yeah.
My experience is more than 10 years old now, but I was literally so unimpressed with it, I never did it again.
Yeah. No, I have a good one you can try.
Cool. But yeah, right now I'm just using like, you know, a cloth, wipe down your desk whenever you're done working with it. Thing of canned air if you're really desperate to get particulate out of the way. I know a lot of crafters who keep like a little hand vac beside their stations that if they're sanding foam or wood or whatever, they can just clean that up right away. And I mean, that works. I don't really have the necessity of dealing with a hand vac, so I haven't gotten that far yet, but you could if that was a thing you needed to do. I think there's even like little personal vacs for artists that you can have on your desk. I thought I saw that somewhere, but...
I know there's those like, things that you can like roll on your desk, the pickup.
Like a lint roller?
Like, well, yeah, but they're usually like shaped like cute mice and stuff.
Oh?
I'm
I
not
mean...
sure how practical...
We're all for things that are cute, though.
Right. Are you satisfied with that answer, Kim? Is that, yeah.
This is so much more fun when I have people floating around me doing this.
Yeah.
This is why I wanted an art jam, because like just drawing with people, hanging out, talking is really rewarding. I think it's not something that we all have the chance to do, and I think that's a shame. So I'm wondering if we should pull these curtains in a slightly more idyllic way. What if we tried that? I don't know how I feel about that. We'll leave it for now and see what happens. But yeah, okay. dog hair. It's a thing, and it's gonna be more of a thing now that we have Saxon. Apparently, Saxon is like eating all of the shoes.
No, Saxon, no.
I know. I mean, he's brand new. He's only
They
been
have
in this
almost
house for
no nutritional value.
truth, right? Yeah, Dave's had his handful trying to keep the dog happy while I'm not there.
Well, yeah, because I guess he's home alone, right?
During the day, he is, and normally I would be there. We had game last night, and I Skyped in. So yeah, I was Skyping in for game last night, and I guess Saxon could hear me and was looking for me like the entire game. He was just like, where? And I'm like, oh, buddy, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't mean to stress you out with this.
I will be home at some point.
Well, I will be. I mean, this isn't gonna be forever, but it's super important, so it's got to get done. And all of a sudden, this picture is not the proportion that I want it to be. Speaking of eraser snow, here we go again.
What's the eraser on the tip of your pencil?
This is a white eraser cap that Kim gave me. I don't know what brand it is. This is a... Came with the pencil? Sweet. This is a Staedtler Wopex. I can't tell. There we go. That works. It is actually pretty sweet. I like how the outside is textured. It's a little bit rubbery and actually kind of comfy on your fingers. And the lead is quite hard, so it gives you really nice line without dulling your pencil really quickly. One of the things that I love mechanical pencils for is how sharp the line stays, but I really hate how they dig into your paper.
And you can't get enough of like an angle on them, right?
You can, but by the time you do, it feels dull, and then you're like, I gotta rotate my lead again. Blur. But yeah, old school pencils are the best pencils. You just need to have something that's gonna work for you. So, yeah.
Cass wants to know what your favorite pen is.
Oh my
Do
goodness.
you have a favorite pen? Is that...
Okay, I have a new pen. I'm getting this pen because I showed off. So, right now, for writing, my favorite pen is a Safari Lamy. This is the one that Kim just gifted me with. It comes in this super, like, space age tube. It's really impressive. And look at it. It's so pretty. I love these with the extra fine points. They are super comfortable for me to write with because they're wider, and that's a consideration for me when I'm dealing with things. I like that they're metal bodied. Basically, I will never need to replace them because they are going to be nigh indestructible. And I like that they're refillable. The older I get, the more concerned I am about environmental stuff, so it just feels good to not have to be throwing out dead plastic pen bodies all the time. For drawing, though, I have yet to come up with an ink that works with a refillable pen.
Do you think there's a holy grail?
I do.
Out there?
I do. Well,
I do that because people always ask me, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know artists tend to fall into like two categories. One is like they have their 20 things that they're loyal to. Please do not.
yeah, don't mess with the
Like,
program.
don't mess with the program. And then there's people like you and me who are like, use this one. Nope. Next. Nope.
I think that those are just two ends of the same spectrum. I think the people who are like, nope, next, haven't found their 20 items. I think once you find your 20 items, you're like, yep, don't mess with the program. And I think that brand loyalty is good because it gives you predictability in your work, but I think it's also challenging because if those items ever stop being made, you have to kind of start.
Like I remember back in my day when Moleskine was a quality brand, and everything I've heard about them recently has been that their quality is just gone to shit.
I think we have to be careful when we construe fashion for quality. I remember being younger and Moleskine's being like the trendy book. Mm-hmm. And kind of having that image of romanticized, we're sitting in a coffee shop writing our screenplay, and all of that kind of thing. I don't remember now if they were ever super, super good, but I was also really young at that point and didn't care.
I have older ones that I bought from Le Papier that are like limited editions from about 10 years ago.
And they were awesome.
And they were pretty good. Like, they were not awesome. I don't think they were ever fountain pen friendly.
Yeah.
But they were so much better than the things. But then, to be fair, Moleskine has kind of upped their art line.
Yeah.
And I love their art books.
Well, it could be that they're trading out, right? It used to be maybe they had one general purpose thing that they were hanging their brand on, and now they're diversifying. Because different people need different things out of different supplies, right? And that's a thing. Like, your Holy Grail may not be my Holy Grail. And I think that's fine. Like, that's more than respectable. Do I think there's a Holy Grail pen out there? Yeah, I do. Am I likely to find it? No, because I'm a weird
Right?
traditionalist about using what I have so that I'm not creating waste. But also, it at a certain point, if you're holding out for like the miracle supply, you're not going to make any art. And I think that that's a thing people get hung up on is, oh, I need those paints or I need these like super expensive brushes and then I will make good art. No, dude, you're going to make good art because you made 1,000 things and threw out 999 of them. And now you've made the work. And so you have the skill.
Yeah.
So I grew up drawing with ballpoint pen because that was what was around, right? It was whatever scrap of paper you happen to have on you and whatever pen you could get your hands on. And I can do a lot with very little now because that's what I started with.
Yeah.
And I think that was good for me in the long run to have limited access to different supplies because it really forced me to get better with what I had. Even now, like, I really want to play with this liquid Frisket for the watercolor, but you know what? I can achieve a similar effect in a lot of cases with just more precision.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm more careful with my lines, with my color blending, with my water flow, I can do basically everything I want to do with the Frisket. The Frisket
It's
is
just so
gonna
much easier.
exactly. Some of it's just gonna save me some time, and that's sometimes all you need. Doing a lot more commission work has got me respecting time saving mechanisms a whole lot more than I used to. Because it's like, oh yeah, I'd love to do this for you, and I'm going to do this for you. I just neglected to account for the fact that this part of this process needs to happen. So that's on me.
That's the thing I find too with like the box and stuff.
Mhm.
I've had a conversation with Chelsea's mom a lot because she has a box that holds all of her boxes that she's gotten from us.
Yep.
And I'm like, use it.
Yep.
Use it. In her hand, she's got a box of boxes too. Need to stage an intervention. I can always get you more supplies. You don't know if you love it or hate it until you use it, right?
That's true. At the same time, there is an intimidation to new supplies, even for me.
Absolutely, but I think that's one of the reasons that we wanted to do it this way because it's like, oh, it's at your door.
Yeah.
Like you didn't go out to the store, stand there looking at everything, getting all terrified. It's like
That's true.
you kind of get this contained thing
Yep.
to use to play with.
The standing at the store is like sometimes the best and the worst for me because I absolutely love being in a space like Delta Art and Drafting in Edmonton because they have piles of everything and I'm just like, oh my God, the potential in this room is exponential. But then I'm also like, oh, but I'm not making stamps. I'm not doing speedball carving to make my own prints. I'm not painting in oils. Like here's all this other art country that I'm not journeying through. And I think that that's kind of a bummer sometimes because I'm like, oh, all the things I could be doing that I'm not doing.
Hobby slots full.
Right? I like that phrase. That's a really good phrase.
Right.
Hobby slots full. I
The
approve.
thing that I like though is, and as I've gotten older and wiser, the thing that I like is going into a place like that and having a list.
Yeah. Oh, Chewy, come on, bud.
Oh, yeah.
We have a dog scramble going on.
From the back?
Yeah. Come on, buddy. You got it. There you go. Stay on the mat, sweetheart.
He just pushed himself
Right
right off.
off, yeah.
It's the old breakdancing move.
But yeah, like I like, you know, recently we were talking about gouache and I was saying, oh, I need to go get some, I need to whatever.
And I was like, dude, I'll just bring you mine.
I know.
And you were like, no.
That would have involved waiting 36 hours. No, but I liked going in, especially with like a list of colors as well. Because then you start to push yourself.
Yep.
You start to be like, well, I've got these 6.
Yep.
How do I blend? How do I change values and tones and all that stuff?
Well, and I think like it's interesting that you brought that up because I follow the Sketchbook School on Facebook,
Yeah.
and I've taken classes from them. I love what they do. I'm completely for them. And there was a post that a lady posted because their new watercolor course has just posted, and one of the assignments is to go through your watercolor thing and do like a grid
Yeah.
of how your colors
Yeah.
blend and stuff like that. And this woman was like, I'm throwing a temper tantrum, like straight up. I'm a 50-year-old woman, and I'm saying I'm not going to do this because I don't want to. It's boring. It's frustrating. I don't like it. And a lot of people were like, I hear you. I don't like doing it either. Some of them were like, I force myself to do it because it's a discipline
Yeah.
thing. Other people were like, fuck it, I'll learn it on the fly. And I hear the frustration, but I also hear you need to know how your supplies work because I have a student thing of watercolors. Where is my bag? And when you look at this pan, it doesn't look like it's super impressive, right? Like you've got, I don't know, 14 colors or so, and they're a good range, but they're not like high end or anything.
Yeah.
I can do an exceptional amount of subtlety in terms of color with that thing. I'll show you guys the picture of the Badlands I painted a little while ago. And I had no idea. Like, until I started actually pushing the range on that box, I would have never assumed that I could have come up with all of these colors. And so if you don't know, if you don't play and you don't force yourself to work with a limited palette, you're not going to know what your supplies are capable of.
Well, and for me personally, that's been like an excuse a lot of the time.
Okay.
When I am fearful of having to do the work. And I know that sounds really
No, I get
silly,
it.
But like, oh well, I know shade ranges, whatever. I don't need to do that. And you find there's so much value in pushing yourself and doing it.
Some of it is just sitting yourself down and being like, do it.
Well, because I think I have this conversation a lot with people who journal because that's more my like
Yeah.
jam. And it's a practice.
Yes.
Like, and it's work, and you have to work
At it.
through it.
Yeah.
You have to work at it. You have to work through it. You have to develop the skills, and like any practice, some days are good, and some days you want to set everything on fire.
Truth. Do you think that framing it as a practice is helpful for people, or do you find that it's intimidating for people?
I don't know if it's intimidating, but I find it tests people's like convictions. Like it tests what they ultimately want to get out of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I think, like I've been having this conversation with my pages a lot recently where I wonder why I keep showing up, why I keep doing it. And part of me seeks some big answer, you know, like
Yeah.
I want to find myself, or I'm gonna be super smart, or I'm gonna write something brilliant that one day someone is whatever.
Yep.
And the truth is that I like using pens and paper. and it doesn't have to be more complicated than that,
Yep.
I guess is the thing.
I wonder how many people would benefit from letting themselves have such a simple truth about it.
Yeah.
Because like I was saying earlier about having the full sketchbook of amazingness,
Right.
like I always thought that was the goal. And like this sketchbook in particular, but a lot of other books that I've been working with lately are mixed media. They are an absolute mess. Like some of them don't even close properly. I've got a couple that are under my desk here right now. And they don't look anything like what I'm currently doing. And they look even less like the stuff that I did in high school. Right? Like, this is a variety of notes and stickers, and this was a poem that I really loved by Mary Oliver, and if you've never read Mary Oliver, you should. This is a note in a packet that I found. Like, this is a card you gave me years ago, I think, when I moved to start my master's. And this doesn't look like a sketchbook to most people. Like, you get some pages like this one that are traditional, where there's paint and ink and whatever going on, right? But then a lot of them are combinations of journaling and whatever else is going on in the course of my life. And letting myself have permission to have a messy book instead of every single piece being like this. I mean, this is what I love to do. This is where like my artistic soul rests, is with really detailed pen and ink work. But if every single page in my book had to be this good, it would never get done.
Yeah.
Like, the book would never fill. But a practice, yeah, show up, get it done. It's like practicing for sports. I really wish that I could get that through people's heads. My friend Charles is in Latvia right now for work, and he's coming home tomorrow after being there for a year. And while he was there, we started writing Halcyon. I was like, I'm going to start writing this book. It's based on our D&D campaign that we all just finished here this last little while. And one of his characters is in it, all this stuff. I'm like, you should help me write this. You have a year of, you're not going to be doing a ton unless you're in the field, right? Yeah, a year of Latvia. You should write with me. And he's like, but I've never written before. And one of the only arguments that I was ever successful with him is like, treat it like going to the gym. Like, he's a gym bunny.
Yeah.
I was like, 15 minutes a day. Put your pen on your piece of paper and write whatever.
But that's the thing, because I remember it's been 10 years now since you threw the artist's way at me.
Has it been 10 years
It's
already?
been 10 years.
That's just, I was going to say disgusting, but that's not disgusting. That's
No.
kind of amazing.
Right? And I remember.
Nothing? Okay.
But I remember the reason you did that was I was so scared. I was like, if I put words on a page, then it's like permanent and people can see it and people can find it and I can see it and I don't want that and
Yep.
what is the stuff that is in my brain? And then 10 years later, I literally finished a journal yesterday, mid-sentence, opened the new book
And
just
kept
the
going.
sentence going.
Yeah.
But it took 10 years to get to that point. Like,
Yep.
it's not something that just happens overnight.
No, it's not. And I remember how many books you started that you'd get 6 pages into and you'd put them down.
Yeah.
Like, I have books like that.
Yeah, right? And
Yeah.
I find one of my favorite scrapbook women,
Yeah.
Allie Edwards, kind of said this recently about Project Life. She said, it's not about each page, it's about the collection. It's when
Yeah.
you look at the scrapbook at the end, because nobody is going to sit there and say, oh, look, this page is inconsistent from that one.
Yeah.
In 10, 15 years, your kids are not going to give a crap about that. They're going to give a crap about
The memories are here.
the memories right here. And I feel like that's the way it is with sketchbooks.
Oh, yeah.
Every sketchbook I have, I hate the first page.
Truth.
Like, why? This is stupid. Like,
Why I started back.
I started in the middle. Just open a random page and just go.
That is some of the best advice I was ever given.
I think you told me that. Yeah.
I struggle with it. I have to have chronology in my books. I've tried bouncing back and forth, starting from the back. Like, it doesn't work for me. One of the things that does work for me, though, is working on separate sheaves of paper and then incorporating those pages into
Yeah.
my book. Because then I have the feeling of kind of being loose and not tied down to something, but then I can keep my chronology as I
Well,
go.
and I think for me, like, part of, and I'm sure you're finding this too, like, now it's even, that pressure is even worse now that you're part of a creative business. Because, like,
Yeah.
we're talking about taking our sketchbooks to the Etsy show.
Yep.
And part of me is like, okay, yeah, whatever, sketchbooks, nobody cares, blah, blah, blah. And then part of me
Freaking out.
is freaking out.
Yeah.
Not that anything in there is private or whatever. I feel like it reflects on the business
Oh, yeah.
and not on me as a person.
Yep. And I mean, that's a whole other arena when it comes to creative art in terms of making it for yourself, is getting over that hurdle of being honest with yourself that you
Yeah.
were just talking about. But then to do it in a public sphere, because there is a line where you have it and then it's too much sometimes, right? My journals are intensely private. I'm still taking them to the show because I do my best to live in a way where I'm not filtered in terms of my expression of what my honesty and my truth is. I will filter for content depending on the audience.
Yeah.
So like I wouldn't show some of my books to children because the themes and stuff are not appropriate for that age group. But I operate on the assumption that everybody on the planet is another human who also has vulnerabilities. And I guess Brené Brown, if again another person I think everyone should read, does a lot of research on the relationship between shame and vulnerability. And I no longer feel shame about my art in terms of how good it is or how crappy it is or how complete it is or how incomplete it is. Like I don't have that emotion in relation to my practice anymore because I'm willing to be vulnerable about it.
Yeah.
This is where I am right now. It's for me. It's not for anybody else. And that's the public part about running a creative business. When I'm doing commissions for other people, that art is for someone else.
Yeah.
My personal beliefs, my everything doesn't go into that piece. My enthusiasm goes in, my technical skill goes
Your
in,
time.
like my time goes in, but I'm not trying to do anything other than bring something that they want to life. When I'm creating art for myself, that's when it's personal.
Yeah.
And I know for myself all of the little choices that I make going to a piece that reflect that. And if you were to ask me about it, I'd be able to break it down
Yeah.
for you. But that doesn't have to be obvious to everyone else.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, with social media, to sound like one of those people, I just find people aren't willing to show their learning process. Like
Yeah.
what we're seeing is, especially, well, not especially, but like calligraphy, bullet journals. I don't know how many times I've heard somebody say on Reddit or whatever, I want to do a bullet journal, but I don't have time to do all these drawings. And my advice is always go look at the very first bullet journal video.
Yeah.
It's that's not what it is. It's not about coming up with these beautiful, beautiful pages. And so I think it's important for artists for creatives.
Yep.
F the word artist.
Truth.
That's scary
Yep.
for some people. But for creatives to show their shitty sketchbooks,
Yep.
to show their little like I have a book of just cactuses, and I did it on a little Flow magazine insert that
Yep.
they sent me. And it's just going through and drawing them, and some of them are terrible. But I think it's important to have that stuff.
Done is better than perfect, first of all.
Yeah.
Like, that is one of the maxims of my creative life. Done is better than perfect. But also, I have never met somebody who looked at one of my sketchbooks that I think is a shitty sketchbook
And been like,
who was like, this is terrible. They were like, oh my God, you have a full book.
Right?
And like, that is the
I
biggest thing.
I was talking to Kat, who does Meow Meow Kapow, and Eve Bolt, and I said, oh, I finished that sketchbook that you made for me. And she's like, what witchcraft is this? How is this sketchbook done? But yeah, right? Like I think it's so, I don't know if we'll ever get over it. Every time I post something on Instagram, every time or whatever, I really expect somebody to jump out of the bushes and be like, this sucks. What are you doing?
I think we've been conditioned to expect that because there are places on the internet where trolls live, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is the thing. And I grew up hearing about the internet because we didn't get it until I was quite a bit older. That the internet is scary and it's dangerous and people are going to lure you away and like murder you in bushes and people are just going to be mean. I think we have the luxury of curating community. And I think that that's a really big deal that gets overlooked. Like, my Instagram is my favorite place to be because it's all art. Like, as I scroll through that feed, it is like 99% artists and like 1% friends. And most of my friends are artists, so that kind of is a beautiful overlap. But like, it gives me the chance to see what I want to see and to be infused with what I want to infuse myself with. And it also kind of curates a community because there's probably not too many assholes in there. If we're all doing the same thing and we understand that vulnerability, there's that word again, then we're probably not going to start ripping each other to shreds. It's why Reddit scares the crap out of me. So I'm like, can you please handle my Reddit? I'm glad, but I'm terrified of being, even Twitter. Like, I just,
But yeah, no,
scary.
Reddit is definitely one of those places where, like you said, the internet is one of those places.
Well, yeah.
Where I feel like one wrong move, we live in a culture where people get canceled. And it's like, what the hell is that?
But I think not even just that. Like, for me, I'm a gamer and I'm a non-binary person. Like, I was born female. Female doesn't bother me as a label, but it's also really loaded, and I don't like all of the labels that go along with that. But like, you see shit like Gamergate, you see shit like
Yeah.
like other women being pushed out of the gaming industry, like stuff that's gone on with Satin Phoenix being in charge of D&D and everybody freaking out about that. Even what Devin Rue has gone through. She's a cartographer. She did a map of Greyhawk, and like the older gamer guys, where Greyhawk was their thing,
Yeah.
we're flipping out. Like, how dare a woman come for my sacred horse? And it's just like, guys, there's room for everybody, first of all. And
Yeah.
it's so telling that I said guys. Like, I'm normally really good about non-gender language, but that one was a Freudian slip. That's very true. There has to be room, and you curate what you want, and these people don't want to share, and that becomes a thing. Like, it's a lot of gatekeeping, and I think that's problematic. Going back to what you were saying about go to the earliest Instagram post and see what the progress was, that's also a type of gatekeeping. If you don't post those posts, you're not letting other people into that system and that process. I'm doing my 100 days project on Instagram right now, and it's all terrible. Like, straight up, it's loose,
Which
it's
is hilarious
sketchy.
because I think it's amazing.
But that's the thing. Like, for me, it's so raw. It's so unfinished. It's not at all like what I would normally be sharing with the world. Even these art streams, like, this is very out of my comfort zone because it's in process. People can see what I'm doing. They can see what I'm getting right that I like. And I'm narrating it, which is like even weirder in my head. I didn't think I was going to. I thought I'd be someone who didn't talk. And now it's like, yeah, no, I talk. Just
Sorry,
this is how
you
it
have
is.
a personality.
I do. Who knew? So, but I think like this kind of lets people see what's going on. Like, there's a friend of mine who's currently living in the Netherlands, and she's like, I want to start drawing. How do I start? And I was like, okay, thinking back to the resources that really worked for me at the very beginning. People like Danny Gregory of Sketchbook School, who's like, you don't have to have talent. You just need to put your pen on paper.
Art with a lowercase a.
Yeah, art with a lowercase a. Like, completely amazing. I kind of want to rug under this chair. This chair is driving me crazy, though.
Just so you know, it's been an hour.
Has it been an hour?
It's been an hour.
Should we just keep talking?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I like the idea of keeping talking. This is fun.
The only scheduled thing is I have to be somewhere at 12:30.
Okay, well, if you can
I-
mind your clock, then we can sort ourselves out.
We can be here for 2 more hours.
Right on.
Yeah, no, it's all interesting, and I know interesting is a bad word.
It's not a bad word.
But it's not a horribly descriptive word.
On the contrary, I like it a whole lot better than it's bad, it's scary.
Yeah, it's bad.
Charles and I have had conversations about that because I use some language in a way that is unfamiliar for him. And he's like, you say that's interesting, and I take that as a negative. Like, that's interesting, as opposed to, that's interesting. And it's like, no, just it's something we can explore. It doesn't have to be a downer or something to make you scary. It's just something to be aware of.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm different at that than he is, and he finds that a little bit strange, which is fine. I mean, I'm strange. I can cop to that.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. I'm really liking this portion of this one, but I'm really not jamming on that bed yet. I think I'm going to look up a bed reference because I'm pretty sure that's my problem. Also, people, don't be afraid to use references.
Oh
my God.
Gosh, right? I always had this mistaken perception
Yeah.
that a real artist just drew things from their brains.
I hear you because I had the same thing.
And it's funny, like the more classes that I've taken, you see these people who are just magnificent, and they're sitting there like their brilliance comes from being able to take 10, 15, 20 different references and kind of incorporate different pieces of that.
That is
But they're not
super.
just making stuff up.
No, for sure. I think that there is a lot to be said for knowing what you're good at and what you're willing to spend your time on. I don't like doing a crap ton of figure drawing just to practice. It's not a thing that brings me a lot of joy. So what I like to do is look up references when I need to draw a figure. And I work harder in that specific instance to get the pose that I want and to get like the drapery of the cloth and stuff like that. But I don't feel like I struggle for hours and hours doing something I dislike to make that happen.
On the instant.
Yeah.
I need to use it.
Exactly. And I mean, there's other things that I love to draw, and I've learned to draw them well enough that I don't need to go for references every single time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I still need to know what this thing looks like if I don't know. There's a weird balance between understanding something and being able to reduce it stylistically to a symbol that is easily understandable by the human brain, and drawing a thing you think you've seen when you don't really know what that looks like.
Yeah.
There was a cool assignment that Danny Gregory had in, oh, I think it's the beginner course from sketchbook school, that was a variant on time drawing. So, like, take 5 minutes and draw a car. Take 2 minutes and draw the same car. Take 1 minute, draw the
Yes.
same car.
Oh my gosh.
30 seconds,
Yeah.
10 seconds, 5 seconds. And you look at 5 seconds, you go, I can't possibly get anything done in 5 seconds.
Like,
You actually can. And what you're going to get is right, it's going to be the essence of car. It's not going to be a car. It's going to be the essence of car.
Your brains can fill in that.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And that's exactly it. You just got to tell your brain what kind of shorthand you have. It's not a board game per se, but there's a game called Telestrations, which is kind of like a combination of telephone and Pictionary.
Yeah.
And I've played it now with a bunch of people. Almost all of them have been Canadian. The most obvious difference is when I'm playing with people who are not Canadian and don't speak English as a first language, because our idiom structure is completely different. Sometimes they don't even know the topic word that is being given,
Yeah.
right? Because we don't use them necessarily the same way. And like we played with Beisho, who's a mutual friend of ours, and she's from Kenya. And her way of describing things, we would have gotten there in the end, but it was a completely opposite route. Like, I was like, what is this? And she'd explain it to me. I'm like, oh, I follow how you got there now, but it wouldn't have been how I'd have gone for it. So there we go. I have a bed that I'm more satisfied with now. It's much simpler, though. Is that what we want? Do we want a simple bed? I think we do. We can put some posts on it still. It's really easy to get caught up talking to you and be like, I'm not drawing anything.
I keep looking over at my phone and I'm like, oh, her pencil hasn't moved in a while.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. This will be like the least productive live stream ever in terms of like drawing things, but it'll be interesting. This is really what I wanted with the live stream. Like, I wish there was a way we could kind of make it like a Google Hangouts.
We can.
I think I'd like to.
One of the things that you can do is, oh my gosh. You can Google Hangouts to YouTube.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
And then we can, also like on Instagram, if you ever wanted to, you can do an Instagram live and then invite another person to join and kind of have a discussion.
I'm so glad you know all of this stuff because I am so not a technologically literate person.
It's my job.
It's part of the reason why like the Cintiq is really appealing to me because, you know, yay, like I think it might. I don't know that I've actively looked for it, but I like the idea of being able to erase and to do all of that with less fuss, I guess.
Is it a Pro you want?
I don't think any of them are available anymore. Like the 27 HD, just because this size. Well, I keep looking for it on Amazon and it keeps saying it's out of stock. So I don't know if they're just selling through them like lightning rounds or if there's a new one coming out. Because when I was talking to Devin a little while ago, she had just gotten hers, but she had gone. I think there's a store in Portland, Oregon, if I remember correctly, where it has all of their product and you can just go and demo all of them and find the one that works for you. Like the closest thing I've ever seen to that is like an Apple store. But I like, oh man, kid in a candy store. I would spend all day in that place. Like, show me everything. It would make me very happy.
Also, we're just never gonna call it Wacom, okay?
Is that how it's pronounced?
That's how people on the internet say it, and I don't.
Really?
I don't think I like it. Wacom sound.
I like Wacom. That's how I always thought it was. But I mean, I'm hardly reliable when it comes to pronouncing things I've only ever read.
Have you watched I feel like we need to do this. Have you watched Last Comic Standing by Penny Arcade?
No.
Okay, so do you know what Penny Arcade is?
Yes, I know Penny Arcade.
So they did a reality TV show
Mm-hmm.
where I think it was just on YouTube, and it was comic book artists.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had the challenges. It was meant to be like incredibly dramatic. And then for their elimination rounds, they would sit down and draw a comic based on like things pulled out of a hat.
Oh, wow.
And it's wonderful. It's the first thing that got me really excited about doing live streams and watching people work.
I can see how that would be a thing for sure.
Because it was so like in the process, and you got to see a lot of the vulnerability and the uncertainty and the like, fuck it, we're just gonna make it work now.
We'll do it live.
We'll-
Yeah.
we'll do it live, literally.
I think, again, going back to that gatekeeping, like social media has given us such an interesting set of opportunities to explore this kind of making together. And I think we really admire the people who are able to do that in a way that is both resonant and very, very personal. Like I'm thinking of Jenny Lawson, the blogess. She's
Oh yes, with
the-
the giant rooster.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
with Beyonce, the giant metal rooster that she moved all around her house trolling her husband with. If you guys have never read the blogess, I highly recommend her. She is incredible. She is a comedian of impeccable sort. She's a mental health advocate. She's just genuinely someone who's doing her thing. And it just so happens to be a very honest, very humble, very hilarious thing. I find her incredibly inspiring. She did a coloring book a couple years ago, which I thought was super cool. Like of all the things that I wasn't expecting her to do as a project, a coloring book was right up there. And it's great. I really like her combination of like things to think about, plus also
Hey, speaking of which, I
Yeah.
don't know if I told you this, but someone on Reddit
mhm.
mentioned that they thought it would be cool if you did like a coloring book, but
Mhm.
like with the maps where people, incomplete maps where people could kind of draw in.
Oh, that'd be
their own
fun.
thing.
Like giving coasts and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Because I know some of your stuff on Patreon, like the turtle and stuff, like people can
Can use
off
that,
and
yeah.
color. But
Yeah.
someone mentioned that.
No, that's a really cool idea. If you think about it, just say thank you to them, and that I'll start Patreon. Actually, if that's a thing that people are interested in, because I could do those fairly simply, I would
Also,
imagine.
haha, guys, sometimes I'm Shay on Reddit.
Oh yeah, it's true. Myrna's my alter ego on Reddit. She always tells me to go look and that it's important, but she's the one who handles all of the replies pretty much. She texts me, "What do you want me to say about this?" Say
I can
this.
be like the polite Canadian when it's like, thank you, and like,
Ye-
that's so great. And then sometimes, like, this question, I don't know.
I don't understand this thing. What is this thing?
But there are words. Just to be upfront and not Woody Harrelson in one.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the reference.
There was a big thing on Reddit a little while ago where Woody, so like, you know what AMAs are?
Yeah.
Woody Harrelson allegedly did one.
Oh,
And it was not him, it was like an assistant who was
Oh.
answering the questions for him, and it was very obvious that it was simply to promote this movie, like whereas
Oh.
an AMA is meant to be more of a like really get to know somebody,
Yeah.
let people answer questions from the community and stuff.
well,
and
that's
so,
disingenuous as hell.
yeah.
Gross.
Yeah.
No, the reason that I have you help me with Reddit is because Reddit gives me a shit ton of anxiety. And, like, we need to manage our mental health issues any way we can, right?
Yeah.
But also, people I don't think have a lot of comprehension about how much work social media is in terms of hours of a day
Oh my
when you
God.
are self-employed. Like, I would much rather be spending my time working
Well,
on
and then
people's
especially
stuff
when
than
you have
navigating
to
Twitter.
Produce stuff.
Well,
right?
that's exactly it.
A lot of your commissions, like you were saying, are on a pretty tight schedule by the time.
Yeah. I mean, I've been off for 3 days dealing with this and like being here and supporting this wonderful person who's hauled my ass out of the fire so many times is of pivotal importance to me. This is highly critical. This is a thing that has to happen. But I was having anxiety yesterday about the fact that I hadn't been to work in 3 days.
Yeah.
Like, it's really strange because self-employed
She
people
says,
are like,
ironically, as she wears an unemployed shirt.
I am wearing my hoodie that says unemployed on it. It's true. But it's one of those things that, like, I think I didn't expect going into this what kind of hustle